Welcome to Naturally You Radio with your host, Leah Salmon, the Naturally You Coach. Leah is a best-selling author of 6 books, homeschooling mother of 7, natural health, well-being coach, and speaker who wants to help you create a life that nourishes and fulfills you on all levels, with advice on naturally healthy living, homeschooling, family, relationships, and personal development. And here's your host, Leah Salmon.
Hi, and welcome to episode 1 of the Naturally You Radio. I'm your host, Leah Salmon, the Naturally You Coach, and today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite subjects, which is food, and more specifically, can your food heal you? Now, firstly, why ask the question, why do we even need to be healed by our food? Why does that even need to be a consideration? The reason is we are sicker now than ever before. With all the modern technology we've got, with all the mega hospitals, with all the pharmaceutical drugs, with all the technology and the innovations, we are sicker than ever before. Obesity levels are through the roof. Cancer, heart disease, diabetes, mental and emotional imbalances, things like ADHD in our children, depression in our children, much less our adults, anxiety, stress from every angle. We have structural problems in our body, TMJ, backaches and pains, sciatica, sexual and reproductive health problems like erectile dysfunction. Infertility was virtually unheard of before 100 or so years ago. Premenstrual tension, premenstrual syndrome, fibroids and more. So yes, we need help. But isn't that what the medical industry is there for? Isn't that what we pay our taxes for? Isn't that what we pay our health insurance for? For the medical industry to create these weird and wonderful drugs to help all of these things? Now, in my opinion, orthodox medicine is perfect for emergency operations and emergency medicine. Premature birth, which I've experienced twice, the orthodox medical community were perfect at handling that. To a large degree. Car accidents, poisoning, stroke, heart attacks, broken bones, emergency operations and emergency medicine. That is where orthodox medicine and these big super hospitals do their best work, in my opinion. A&E, the emergency room, is an amazing place. It saves lives. Even things like antibiotics used appropriately are absolute lifesavers. However, past that and dealing with some of the issues that I just mentioned, so things like obesity and cancer and heart disease and diabetes and ADHD and depression and all of these things that are plaguing our population. And they're not even all race specific. Some of them are just wide sweeping our whole population, is what we then tend to depend on big pharmaceutical companies to help for us. Big pharma, all the drugs and the pills and the potions that are out there and available to us have got a lot of negative side effects. One, they create a dependency, they create a sense, and they have created this sense that our bodies don't know how to heal themselves. We need medical intervention to go through processes that we have always gone through. Big pharma and hospitals and medical intervention have literally made us so dependent on them that some of us would not dream of doing certain things without almost the permission and the accompaniment of them. So, vaccinations, for example. Your body has an immune system. A child's body has an immune system that is, once fueled correctly and once the child is put into an environment that they are not constantly being exposed to certain things, is perfectly capable of doing what it does best, which is creating immune responses to protect itself, protect the body from things that come its way. Vaccinations have not always been around, but we have survived for countless generations without them. childbirth and pregnancy is something that is very dear to my heart because I've had a lot of children and I've been pregnant several times, obviously. And when you talk about home births to people, people see you as being irresponsible, even with vaccinations. In fact, people see you as being irresponsible and not caring about your child. If you even think about not having medical professionals present with an array of medical equipment, and if this happens we've got this drug, if that happens we've got that drug. If you say no to all of that and say that you just want to have your child the way that our ancestors have been having children for thousands of years, keeping our population going perfectly well before any of the midwifery and the obstetrics techniques were even available to us, you are seen as, being very, very different. And like I said, almost irresponsible for just allowing your body to do what it does naturally. Obviously, there are, again, situations and occurrences where we need a medical and emergency operations and medicine. And those services that they offer are invaluable. But if you are pregnant with no major problems going on, you don't have high blood pressure, you don't have, gestational diabetes, you don't have any structural problems, you're in good health, there is no reason why you need the high levels of medical intervention that are sometimes forced on you as a mother. People will now go to the doctors and go to the GPs when they've got things like a cold. There was even a sign up in the GP surgery when I went to go and get one of the antenatal checks that I had to get while I was pregnant, which I went to begrudgingly half of the time. But it said, please don't come to the hospital. Please don't come and book yourself in for an appointment if you've got a hangover. People are that dependent on doctors that even when they have a hangover, they will want to go and see a doctor and get the doctor to help them out. How about you just don't drink so much in the first place? How about that? How about you just not get so drunk that you feel so terrible that you go to the doctors? People will go there for colds and the flu. Yes, the flu can be very dangerous if it's not managed correctly and if you are of a certain demographic. However, the flu viruses and colds and those types of things can be managed in a lot of cases without needing high levels of medical intervention. The side effects of a lot of the pharmaceutical drugs that we are being given, that we are almost depending on when it comes to supposedly keeping us healthy, have got side effects which are worse than the actual problems that we are taking them for. So if you look at the side effects, the possible side effects on a box of cough mixture, even for children, and cold medicine and sore throat medicine and PMS pain medication and steroids and hay fever tablets, some of the side effects are worse than the symptoms that we're taking them for. And they are long-lasting side effects as well. So you will end up, and some of those side effects are so bad that you then need to take other medications just to manage the side effects of the medications that you're taking to get rid of something that you could be managing and that you could resolve and reverse in a completely natural way without starting this cascading snowball effect of having to take this drug to get rid of the side effects of that drug, which is causing other side effects that you then need to take more medications for. There's a brilliant t-shirt. I saw a picture of a t-shirt, and on the back of it, it's just full of text saying, okay, I'm taking this drug to get rid of the side effect, to get rid of this condition, but then I need to take these other 3 drugs to get rid of the side effects of this one drug, and then the second drug gives you these side effects, so I need to take all of these because I can't be bothered, and it's a whole list of them, because I can't be bothered or because it's too much work to change my diet and exercise more. And the names of these chemicals and the drugs that we're taking in, the vast majority of us don't know don't know what these chemicals are really doing. And then the combinations, the chemical cocktails that our bodies are being subjected to when we take this drug to get rid of the symptoms of this, when we could have handled them naturally. In many cases, it's guesswork. Medical professionals are guessing, and they're looking anecdotally to see whether there's side effects of combining all of these medications. It's not always a definite that these two medications taken together are not going to cause side effects. But if they do, all that's going to happen is they're just going to give you another chemical medication to get rid of those side effects. It's not sustainable. It's a great business model, and it's a great fear-based business model. The sicker we are, the more the pharmaceutical companies make. And even when we are better, so there's people who, for example, may have started off going to the doctors for anxiety or stress, and they're given high levels of these SSIs, these medications that help to supposedly balance out your brain chemistry and stop you having stressful or anxiety-filled episodes, and sometimes even suicidal thoughts. Once those drugs have taken hold and they've given you some kind of temporary relief, instead of fully taking you off those medications, pharmaceutical companies and drug pushers, doctors will very oftentimes just keep you on what they call a maintenance dose of these things for a long period of time. I know people who have been on, elders who for the last 10, 20 years of their life been on high blood pressure medication or cholesterol lowering medication. And then there's no end in sight to them ever coming off. So they are a regular customer to these pharmaceutical companies who are not considering giving people an alternative to taking these medicines. It's just take the medicine. That's the best way to do it. Doctors come to you now. I remember hearing a great podcast on the Underground Wellness radio show with Sean Croxton. I can't remember the name of the author, but he was talking about the fact that 50 years ago, if you wanted to see the GP, you would have to go to the GP. You would recognize a problem within yourself. You would recognize you had certain symptoms, and you would take yourself to the GP. Now, the GP comes to you at least 3 times a year, no matter whether you're a newborn baby or you're a 70, 80-year-old individual. The GP comes to you. You will get letters through the post saying it's time for this checkup. It's winter. You need to come and get a flu jab. Have you had these vaccinations yet? Women, we get sent letters every few years asking us for a smear test. Men at certain ages will get letters asking for prostate, asking if they want to go and get their prostate tested. Now, don't get me wrong. There are a lot of it has become a useful and revealing occurrence that, getting yourself tested on a regular basis for certain things can uncover symptoms or conditions that were lying dormant that you may not have noticed until they got to a bigger degree. But that's not the case for every single thing that you are contacted by your doctor for. So in the Black male community in the UK, prostate cancer is a big deal. So there are big pushes for people to go and get their prostates checked out. However, what the consideration is once you do go and get your prostate checked out and they find that you maybe do have some kind of imbalance in your prostate, it's then a case of, okay, what are you going to do to rebalance or heal or get your prostate back into a good condition? The vast majority of the time, it's going to come down to medication or an operation if you're going to go to the orthodox medical community, which is why I say to people that when they complain about going to the doctors and the doctors recommend this drug and that procedure and that operation, why are you going to them in the first place? Because that is what they are trained to do. They're trained to operate on you or drug you. The amount of advice, like nutritional advice or lifestyle management advice, that they are trained to give you is minimal. that's not their forte. So if you don't want to be offered a handful of drugs, if you want to approach your health conditions in a more natural way, certainly go and get the tests if you feel they're necessary. But then it's the way that you manage the results that you're given. That's where your power lies. And you don't have to rely on them telling you that that's what you have to do, because there are other ways. There's a great balance that can be formed between the medical industry, the orthodox medical industry, and the natural health world, and using the information that they can sometimes give you through the test. Because bear in mind, just because you go there for a test and they give you the result, that doesn't mean that that is the result. That's the result that their tests were able to give you, because a lot of results come back inconclusive. So you may have gone there because you've actually got symptoms. So you're taking yourself there, not them asking you to come for a checkup, and then they discover something and then they try and give you drugs for it. And that's the other thing. Sometimes, again, they will discover things that are not even... It's an imbalance that can be handled in a very mild way, but they will offer you drugs, turning you into a customer. Oh, well, your blood pressure is slightly high, or your cholesterol is slightly this, or your blood sugar is slightly that. Why don't we get you on some medication now before it gets too late? That doesn't necessarily need to be the problem. That doesn't need to be the only solution, but oftentimes when we start a process with a doctor, we feel we need to continue the process with the doctor. So the balance can be formed between the medical industry and the natural health world by them, using the services that they offer to find out information about what is going on with your body. If you feel that there's something going on in your body that a natural health practitioner may not be able to identify in you, and then using natural methods to help yourself to deal with that situation. Because bear in mind, as far as the natural health community, as far as the orthodox medical community is concerned, we put a lot of faith in them and in their power and their ability to help us. But it's been proven that they don't have an absolute knowledge and an absolute power to help us with our health. We started a war on cancer. We poured millions into chemotherapy. Now more people than ever have cancer. They started a war on obesity. There are more morbidly obese people on the planet now than there ever have been. The same with cholesterol and high blood pressure. We eat less of these so-called evil saturated fats that they told everyone are so bad, which are actually the healthy fats that our ancestors ate for thousands of years without developing any heart problems. So we're talking about coconut oil and palm oil. Coconut oil now has only just now been given the recognition that it deserves, because even though it's this evil saturated fat that people used to tell us to stay clear of, now everybody is raving about the benefits of coconut oil, including the fact that it's a saturated fat, which one thing that saturated fats are good for is cooking with. Whereas the so-called there was a lot of publicity about the fact that we should be cooking more with vegetable oils. It's actually the saturated fat oils like the coconut oil and the palm oil that, because of their saturation, makes them more stable when they're heated at high temperatures, which is why you'll find a lot of people in the natural health world will recommend, if you are cooking with oil, then cook with coconut and palm oil. If you want to add oil to your food afterwards, that's when you can use something like an extra virgin olive oil, because it doesn't withstand heat as well as coconut oil and palm oil. So when we've been told to eat less of these saturated fats because they're so bad for us and they're causing heart disease and all these types of things. So a lot of people switched to the fat-free diet, but high heart disease and cholesterol levels and diabetes still went through the roof. So was that advice even sound? Coming from this, this superior, so-called superior orthodox medical community that was giving us this advice. And the more commercial chemical oils that they've been pushing to us, and all these fat-free products and all these things that they've been pushing to us because they say that they're healthier than the way that we were living naturally, none of them have improved our health. This is one of the reasons why it's really important to consider using natural methods and our food as a way to heal us, because that's what we've always done. whether it was making a soup or creating a broth or picking herbs and making a tea or a combination or a poultice or a cream, we've always gone back to nature to help heal us when we haven't been well. And that's never done us any drastic damage. But in the last 100 years, we've seen there's enough evidence for us to see we cannot just rely on the orthodox medical community alone. They had their chance. They've had their chance to show us that, they are the ones for us to go to, and it hasn't happened. But like I said, one of my sayings, and going back to a point I just mentioned, one of the sayings that I've got is that modern interventions applied to ancient wisdom creates vibrant health. So we need to use the wisdom of our ancestors and the abundance of healing that's found in nature. But we can use those things with modern inventions like blenders and juicers and dehydrators and capsule makers, etc., to create better health and reverse this downward spiral that our whole population is suffering from. Why food and not supplements and therapies? I know a lot of people think that, obviously, okay, I am a nutritionist, so and that was my first training, was as a nutritionist, and I do have a very big passion about food, and the reason why I put food over supplements and therapies is because we eat food every day. We don't have to have a massage every day. We don't have to have reflexology every day. We're not going to always have the chance to have hydrocolonics every single day. But what we are going to do without fail every single day is eat food. That we need to eat food to survive. We don't need to take supplements and have therapies and, partake of all the other complementary therapies. They're very powerful complementary therapies, by the way, but we don't have to do those things every day for our survival. We do have to eat every day for our survival. It's something that we put into our body every single day, so it is very powerful. So my thinking always was, if I'm going to have the greatest effects on people's health, if I'm going to be able to help people improve their health most quickly and most powerfully, one of the best things I can do is help them make the food choices that they have to make every day as healthy and powerful as possible. Then complementary to getting their foods on track, then they can start adding natural supplements and therapies that complement the food that they're eating every single day. That's why I got into nutrition in the first place. It is so super powerful. Food is not just something that you shove in one end of your body and then you poop out of the other. It has a lot of impact as it's going through your whole system. And the impact that it can have is that it can either vitalize and rejuvenate your body and heal you and cleanse you, or it can slowly poison you as it's going through. That's what I've come to realize. So when people start working with me, and I know people probably expect me to give them a list as long as their arm of supplements and superfoods and constant trips to this health food shop and ordering these wild and exotic things from online. I start with people's food. That is the most important thing. Let's just get your food and your hydration right. Then we can add everything else afterwards. And just doing those two things, in my experience, has helped people to reverse the diseases and the conditions that they've come to me with, more than them resorting to just supplements and therapies. Because another consideration is, what some people will do is they'll start taking expensive supplements, they'll start taking these therapies, which again, like I said, are very powerful. However, they won't change their food or their hydration, which means that they end up in a situation where the supplements that they're taking are going into a junk food filled body. The therapies that they're getting administered to them are having to work on a junk food filled, dehydrated body. And even the people, sometimes the people that are selling the supplements, and very, very often, more often than not these days, many complementary therapists are adding nutrition to their skill set, because they even realize, I can be massaging this person, giving them reflexology, I could be doing the colon therapy, I can do the ear candling on them, I can do the Reiki. But if they're continuing to eat a very, very poor, energy draining diet and they're hardly drinking any water, all the work that I'm doing is not going to be as effective as if they spent some time on their nutrition. Another massive benefit of using your food as your medicine is that it's easy and cheap. It's easy, cheap medicine. And if you appreciate and you accept the fact that it can be used as a medicine, and you treat it like a medicine, so the same way you are told by your doctor, take these antibiotics 3 times a day for 7 days and make sure you don't stop. When people are prescribed a diet by a natural health coach, people don't always take it as seriously because they don't see it as being as powerful as medicine. So if someone tells them, okay, you have to make sure that you have this juice or this smoothie or these foods, or avoid these certain foods every day for 21 days, if you don't take it seriously and treat it with the same respect that you would treat taking medication, you're not going to get the same result. You're not going to get the results that you were told you were going to get. So you have to accept that it is as powerful as it is. And if you want proof of how powerful it is, there's stacks of anecdotal evidence. There's documentaries. I'm going to name some for you in a little while. But there's so much evidence. It's mounting as to the power that food has. Food can help you, just some very general examples. The proteins in the whole natural, nutrient-dense foods that we eat help to build and repair your body. Our food gives us energy. It's a fuel. It energizes us. The fats and the carbohydrates that we have give us our fuel, give our body the fuel that it needs to do what it does best, which is to build and repair and grow itself. So when we are in a state of dis-ease, we need the proteins and fats in the natural healthy food to build and repair what's going on. And we also need to give our body the energy and the nutrients that it needs to do that work. Our body is protected from illnesses and viruses by fueling our immune system with the natural essential fatty acids and the proteins in our food. Our food can even improve our moods. Mangoes, for example, have got nutrients in them that are proven to help improve our moods. Unless you're one of those really strange people that does not like mangoes. I don't even know how you people are classified as humans. However, there are some people that don't eat mangoes. But if you do like mangoes, one of the great things about them, apart from their amazing taste, is that they do help you to improve your mood. Fats, if your body's not getting enough essential fatty acids, then it can actually have an effect on your brain chemistry, making it difficult for you to concentrate, making it difficult for you to literally affecting your mood. So we need to make sure that we're getting in enough essential fatty acids. Our food can cleanse us. Just the fiber and the water in whole, natural, uncooked, raw, water-rich food helps to cleanse our body and gets rid of the junk that causes the diseases in the first place. Now, the key is to add more of what heals your body as far as food is concerned, and remove foods and practices that harm your body. So if you want to start on the process and start feeling the benefits of using your foods to improve your health, then start adding more of what heals you, which is nutrient-dense whole foods, and remove the foods and practices that are going to harm you. So the foods that are going to harm you are obviously the very highly processed, high in sugar, high in the rubbish trans fats, or the 3 nasties I call them, MSG, aspartame, and trans fats. Remove all of those foods and the practices like smoking, drinking alcohol, living in a life of stress. And if you know where the stress comes from, remove that stress from your life. Being around negative energy all the time. And again, if you know that where the negative energy around you is coming from that may be draining you, then remove yourself from it. Do as much as you can to remove yourself from it. So you add more of the things that heal you, you remove the foods and practices that are harming you, and you complement these things with things like natural remedies and health-giving practices. So natural remedies like adding herbs, natural oils, natural supplements, and then the practices that help to boost and improve your health, like adding exercise and movement to your life, is so incredibly important. Cleansing techniques like simple things like skin brushing or Hopi ear candle treatments, as well as the more commonly known liver and kidney cleanses and hydrocolonics and enemas and those types of things. The cleanses, I would seriously recommend that you have a good amount of time working with your foods and your hydration before you do those big cleanses. But they are things that help with your health. Doing just those things is a perfect recipe for vibrant health, and it will help us get out of this downward spiral of health that leads us to the question, how can we improve our health? And that's what this podcast is about. That's what this message is about, to reassure you and to empower you to consider using your food as the key to healing your body. If you start doing this now, you'll be able to see the results, and then we will be able to create a generation, of the next generation, the future, that doesn't have to suffer the way that we have. So we can teach our children this and get them doing it now early. So we're not creating a negative situation in our children now that they then have to break the way we're having to break the negative situation that we're in now. And you can do that by simply being an example to your children. If you have a health challenge that you want to balance out and resolve naturally, then there are some simple ways that you can use your food to do that. The first one is know it's possible. So like I said, there's movies and documentaries that you can watch almost for days that give you so many examples of how people have used their food to improve their health. One of the documentaries is called Simply Raw, Reversing Diabetes in 30 Days. That's one of my favorite documentaries. There's another one called Food Matters, Fat, Sick and Nearly Dead. That's got 1 and 2 parts to it. Forks Over Knives. Plus, there's just hundreds. Those alone, plus hundreds of anecdotal evidence that says that it is possible. And you need to accept that it's possible. Like I said, you have to embrace the possibility of it being possible. In the same way you believe, and I use that word very specifically, the same way that we believe that when we're given medication by the doctors, it's going to have an effect. You need to have that same trust in the healing power of nature. The next thing that you need to do is set a clear health goal, preferably with a time frame of what it is that you want to achieve, and see yourself having achieved it by that time. If you need to go ahead and watch The Secret, that documentary thing, that movie, or read some stuff on laws of attraction, or vision boarding, or whatever it is that you need to do, if that's not something that you're used to doing, visualizing your goals and seeing yourself achieving them, then get into the practice of starting to do that. Because if you set yourself a goal and then you see yourself struggling to achieve it, or you set the goal thinking, I'm not going to achieve this goal anyway because it's just too hard, but I'm just going to go through the motions, you've already set yourself up for a fall. So when you set your goal, have a clear time frame in mind of when you want to achieve it. So if you want to lose 50 pounds, please don't make your goal 7 days' time. Make it something that you know is going to be achievable for you. Not necessarily realistic, but it's going to a time frame that's going to be a stretch, but that you feel comfortable that you can do this with. You really need to go into this with a very positive mindset, because as we know, everything is connected. So the way you're thinking about the process is going to reflect on how you're able to physically play out the situation as well. So set a clear health goal of something that you want to achieve and see yourself achieving it. The next thing that you need to do is to do some research into your health challenge and decide which way of eating or foods and natural remedies is going to help you the most. So for simple challenges, it might be, you may have constipation. So you may just need to drink more water, get in some exercise, get some essential fatty acids into your diet, some friendly bacteria, and increase the amount of raw food you're eating. That may be what you need to do. But if you've researched your condition, and it's a more long-term complex health challenge, it is probably going to be better for you to find a natural health coach and work with them, so you don't have to put the pieces of it together entirely on your own. And even for some of the simpler health challenges that you may have, it still may be a good idea to work with a health professional, because if you do have constipation, for example, and you do increase your water, or you You find out that you need to increase your water, get some exercise, get some essential fatty acids, have some more friendly bacteria in your diet, and raw foods. Those things will help to reverse the constipation. And that is something that you can do on your own. However, it's always advisable to find out what caused constipation in the first place, so that you're not just getting rid of the constipation, which is a symptom. You're actually dealing with what it is that caused the constipation in the first place. So definitely, I do definitely encourage you to take steps to resolve any health challenge that you've got. But working with a health coach or a natural health professional will also help you go one level deeper, so that if the constipation comes back, you're not just in a cycle of, treating it almost like you would treat it with medication. So a symptom pops up, you take some medication to get rid of it, and it's gone. Then it pops up again in 3 months, you take some more medication, and then it's gone. So if you found out what the cause of the constipation was, then you could adapt what it is that you're doing to address the cause of the constipation, as opposed to just the symptom, which is constipation. If, with as much focus and positive energy as you can muster, once you've done all of these things, you get started and you go for it. You read books, you can watch videos, documentaries, you can read motivational quotes, you can do on or offline courses, or whatever you need to do to keep motivated and informed and positive during the process. But know that nature can help you to reverse the sicknesses that we are going through. There's no need for us to suffer with so many of the things that we are suffering with, because there's so much of an abundance of nature there that can help us. Our health and the health of our children, and literally our race, depends on us changing some of the habits of a lifetime and saying no to living with shabby healthcare and ineffective medicines. And we need to take back control of our lives and our health, and using our food is the simplest way that we can do that. And it's the simplest way that we can help to restore our health. So we literally need to get back to enjoying the abundant levels of health that our ancestors enjoyed before all the so-called modern conveniences and the food technologists and the innovations supposedly that made our lives easier. Our ancestors never had to worry significantly about things like depression or PMS or ADHD, gluten sensitivity, leaky gut syndrome, cancer, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, injecting themselves with insulin, having anti-rejection medication because they've had transplants, organ transplants, having mechanical hearts or pig's hearts to replace their own hearts after just 50 or 60 years of life. We can get back to that too by simply harnessing the power of nature. That's all we need to, that's one of the biggest things we need to do. It's not obviously the only thing we need to do, but that's such a big thing that we can do. Just trusting in nature and harnessing the power that it possesses. I really hope that you've enjoyed this podcast. Please be sure to share it with your friends. And you can find me at thenaturallyyoucoach.com, where you can download a free recipe book. You can find me on Facebook under Leah Salmon, or the Naturally You Coach, and at the Natural You Coach on Twitter and Instagram. Again, trust in the power of nature. We can use our foods to heal ourselves. Have a great day, take care, and stay healthy.